there, welcome to Crafty Shenanigans. I am Shannon Smith and I want to show you something kind of fun today. I want to show you how to create a faux copper patina card. It's going to look something like this. There's two different ways to do it. One of them, you'll see one has just clear embossing powder and one using a little bit of white. So what do you say we get started? I'm going to start out with a piece of paper, this cardstock that is, I think it's probably about 100 pound, and it is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. This is mostly about the technique more than the card, but just in case you wanted to know what the measurements were, there you have it. I'm going to use a sticky mat and a stencil. This is Simon Hurley's Grand Greenery stencil and British Monroe's Stick and Stamp mat. So I'm just taking this kind of aqua color paper. I don't know the brand on that. It was just in my stash. Okay, these are Uktam, I believe is how you say it, gel pens. I don't remember where I bought them, but they're in my Crafty stash. And I'm choosing this color that's kind of a teal to outline my stencil. And I'm just going to go in and first I'm just going to outline it just normal. And then I'm going to go back through and make kind of a up and down jagged pattern. This is especially nice if you've messed up when you're tracing because it is very forgiving. I don't know about you, but I am definitely a fan of any technique that is forgiving because heaven knows I am always in need of forgiveness. Okay. So we'll continue along with our stencil. Now, if there's little openings that are just tiny, like this one's pretty small, I don't worry about that little jagged line. But let me do a couple more of those little jagged lines and then I'll hold it up a little closer to the camera so that you can see what I'm talking about. And like I said, I don't know where I got these pens, but they're pretty good. You know how sometimes gel pens don't stay consistent? They don't write consistently. They just kind of stop running and you have to get them going again. I have not had any problems with this one, knock on wood. If you're wondering why my finger is brown on the side, you will see soon enough as we move along in our tutorial. I usually have ink on my fingers a little bit anytime I'm crafting anyway, but they are extra inky today. Now that we've got that done, we can go ahead and peel our stencil back. Now I'm just going to heat set the gel pen. Okay, so for the next part, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. Let's get my heat tool. You can just use your embossing ink pad and brush it across brush it across in just kind of stripes. But just for fun, I'm going to use one of my favorite crafty tools. I like having an old paintbrush in my craft room because they're good for splattering and lots of other things. So that's just one of the things I like to keep in my craft room. Okay. And then I'm just going to use some re-inking embossing ink. And I'm probably using maybe the size of a dime. I may not even need all of that. So now I'm just going to kind of tap in there And then just kind of brush across my project. I like kind of going back and forth. All right, you can kind of see where it's going because it does make it have kind of that watermark design, which is kind of nice. It's a little harder when you're using white paper. And I think we'll just go ahead and see where that takes us. Okay, so I'm just going to apply some embossing powder. And I just want, I definitely like using a more sheer embossing powder. And so I just used a little bit of white embossing powder, but I'm mostly going to brush it off. I don't want a lot of the white on there because we want to see our design. Use that toothbrush again. But I do want a little bit of white, so I will also show you an example after this of what it looks like if you just use clear. But for now, let's use the white and see what that does. You can see I've mostly brushed it off. So you don't want an awful lot of embossing powder on your card, but whatever embossing powder you do have on your card, it's important that you get it all heated up or brushed off. Because we will be using a little bit of direct to paper with an ink pad, and so you don't want to mess up your ink pad. Just kind of tilt it and you can see if everything that's shiny is shiny, everything that should be shiny is showing up shiny. Okay, so you can see there's barely any of that on there, and that's good. We kind of want that on this. So don't touch it like I just did until it's all the way dry. Then you want to make sure your tray is all cleaned out, because now we're going to use clear embossing powder. So I'm just going to use the same technique, using some more of our, let's use some more of our embossing ink. All right, so now we'll add some clear. And again, I don't want the entire panel covered. So we're just gonna lightly take just a little bit of it off. Oops. Okay, let's see what we get with this. that has kind of a fun effect. You can kind of look at it and see if there's anything you want to make sure is going to show through, because we are going to use a dark brown next. So just kind of look and see that you've got a good pattern going on. I think I might add a little bit of embossing powder there, maybe a little bit right there. So that's when you can just grab your, yeah, we don't even need to reapply the embossing ink to the mat, because there's enough left in our brush that we can just use that. I'll just use a little bit more of our powder. Sorry, my air conditioner is blowing my embossing powder everywhere. All right, so let's move that out of the way. Okay. So now we can just go ahead and want to make sure it's cool enough, and then just brush it off. All right, so now we've got our panel. We want to make sure that there's nothing on it that would bother our ink pad. And now I'm going to use a little bit of Simon Hurley's Gur ink. It's great brown. And I'm just going to kind of smush that in there. I want this to kind of get picked up anywhere that there is not embossing powder, which probably there isn't a ton of space that it is free of embossing powder, but just enough to add a little bit of age and personality to our background. That's where the inky finger comes in. Just gonna rub that around a little bit. That just kind of ages it up a little bit. And then I'm just going to go around the edges a little bit as well. See, I'm just using a little bit of my ink my inky water to soften that line up a little bit. So I need to cut my thread. There we go. All right, so now we can let that dry. I'll just probably set something on it. That's just the way that's how I roll. So we'll leave that for a few minutes. Now we can make this into a card. Now I do want to show you before I do that. This is what it looks like when this is our really rustic, crazy one, and this is one that has just a little bit less. I just used clear embossing powder on this one, and then I did that extra layer with the white on this one. So there's two ways you can do that. Okay, so I've got this kind of coppery, kind of a goldish coppery paper. It's not as heavy as most cardstock. I'm not sure exactly what weight it is. and I couldn't tell you for sure who makes it because it was just in my Crafty stash. In fact, I inherited it from my mom. So I've got that. That is cut to 4 by 5 1/4. And then I've got these pieces of foil, gold foil cardstock. These are cut to, oh goodness, how much are they cut to? 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And then I also, from that same paper, I cut these butterfly die cuts. And these are from A Pocket Full of Happiness. They were kind enough to, I won a prize package from them on Instagram like maybe a year or so ago. And so I'm really excited to use those. This is the rest of that set. And then this is another set that they were generous enough to send to me. And then we're actually going to use a couple of sentiments from the stamp set that they sent me. This is called Positive Vibes. The butterfly stamps or die set is called Fly Away With Me. So I'm going to use You Deserve Your Dreams and Tough Times Don't Last, Tough People Do. So I'm just going to stamp. I am a big fan of black sentiments on a card. I think embossing is beautiful too, but for this one, I think we've got so many fun, shiny elements going on that I think we'll keep our sentiments simple. So I'm just going to stamp those in black. I'm using Brutus Monroe's Raven ink. And I am just stamping these onto, this cardstock is actually Brutus Monroe, and it is called Lunch Bag Paper and Raven ink from Brutus Monroe. And I like a nice bold sentiment, so I am going to ink that several times. So I went ahead and stamped my sentiments onto the lunch bag paper that I told you, and then I've got these little dies that I got from Desire. So now we've kind of got them situated how we're going to want to put them on our paper, and then we're going to mount them onto our foil paper. So now I've kind of got them arranged how I want them on the cards. So I'm just going to go ahead and assemble all of those. So now I just need a little bit more embellishment. So maybe we'll use some of these kind of bronzy ones. Yeah, okay, this is what we need. Okay, so grabbing some embellishments from my Crafty stash. And I want to say that these are Stampin' Up. If they are, I've had them for like a decade probably. Do you guys have anything in your Crafty stash that's that old? See, that one's kind of silver, isn't it? I'm surprised they still stick, to be honest with you. And I need one more, probably right there. And let's put, can use another one. We're done there. Yeah, that works for me. All right, so now all we have left to do is to mount them on our card bases. So now we have our cards with our faux patina. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that maybe you'll be inspired to try your own faux copper patina card. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.